everybody. Welcome to today's live. It's on a Sunday. Happy Sunday. Today my guest is Donato Martinez. I'm probably going to say it again because there's no one watching right now. Oh, there he is. That was quick. Okay, 1 second. I'm coming. Here we go. Let's see. We're just gonna wait for him to join. Did it work? Oh, hi, Donato.
Brenda, how are you?
Good. So nice to see you.
Nice seeing you. Are you in Oregon?
Yes,
Oh
I
my
am.
God, how's the weather out there?
It's cold. It's really cold right now. So that's why I'm wearing a sweater. But it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, how are you? How's everything in California?
It's going well. I'm feeling pretty good. Yeah, I got vaccinated on Friday, so the one and done. So it's the Johnson and Johnson. Um, I'm feeling pretty good. Thank you. Yeah,
I was gonna say, how does that one feel? You don't feel weak or anything?
no, I didn't have any effects at all.
Yeah.
I just my arm still feels like somebody hit me on my arm, and that's pretty much it.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Nice.
but my mother made pozole today, so I'm really excited about that. I'm gonna have some later on, and it feels kind of chilly outside, so it's perfect weather. I'm
Yeah.
gonna try to get my taxes back so I can get a little bit of money back in the next
Hmm.
month. So yeah, so things are kind of good. Things are pretty good, and plus I have a break from classes for a spring break in about 3 weeks from now, so I'm excited about that.
Cool. Well, thank you for joining. There's so many people that are on already. It's crazy.
Really?
Um,
Okay.
yeah, there's a lot.
Okay.
It happened pretty fast. I was gonna say we can wait, but we have a lot of people on already. So we can just get started right away. So thank you everybody for joining the live. Today I'm gonna be talking with Donato Martinez, who was my English professor back in college. Like I said, he's a professor and a poet. And thank you so much for being with us, Donato.
Well, thank you, Brenda. I know that we tried to do it in February, but it kind of didn't work out, and so it
Yeah.
pushed back to March. So, yeah, thank you very much for being patient.
Yeah, of course. And yeah, like I said, we can just get started so everybody
Yes.
can get to know you a little bit better and we can share as much as we can about you. And just everybody who's watching, if it's your first time, if you have any questions for Donato, you can write it on the question bubble and we'll get to it at the very end. We should have at least 5 to 10 minutes left for questions. So yeah, we'll get started. So where are you from, Donato?
Well, I was born in Mexico. So I was born in Mexico in a small pueblo called Garcia de la Cadena, Zacatecas, Mexico. And I came here when I was very young, about 6 years old. But what's interesting is that even though that I was sick, I came when I was 6 years old, I still remember things about the pueblo, right? Still remember
Oh,
things about that. So it's kind of like, it's crazy that I do, right? Now, however, I haven't visited there in so long that I feel so much like a pocho if I were to go back, you know.
yeah.
But I still have like love of the roots there, and then came here, essentially came to Corona, California, to a small barrio community known as Home Gardens. So if any HG people are out there, hey, what's up, like Home Gardens, right? But it's a small pueblo, working
Mhm.
class Mexican people, just like Raza and just like a Chicana neighborhood, with like little mercaditos and lowriders and vatos locos and graffiti
Yeah.
on the wall. And so you'll probably see and hear some of that later on in my poetry, but spend a lot of formative years, my adolescent formative years there until much later my parents found a property in Riverside and kind of moved to, a sort of safer, cleaner neighborhood.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that. Good intro. And so what inspired you to become a poet and create art in this very beautiful way?
Um, there's a couple things. Is that I was going to be an architect and I was studying architecture for a couple years.
Mhm.
And I was surrounded by just a lot of really gifted artists, and we would have to be required to keep sketchbooks. And we used to kind of like draw and paint and sketch in our sketchbooks. And I was always surrounded by very artistic people. And I was always intimidated by them because their project was so much, nicer and bigger and
Yeah.
more beautiful. And I always thought that they were so artistic, much more artistic than I was, right? But I
Mhm.
still had love of like painting. I took some watercoloring classes. I took life drawing classes. I took modeling classes. I took a lot of kind of like graphic coloring classes and things like that. But the one class where I actually started like doing a little bit more like presenting of my poetry and creative work was this one class with this professor by the name of Graciela Italiano at Cal Poly Pomona. And we were asked to present like a monologue, any kind of monologue about ourselves the very last day of class.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought about like, that stereotype of the lazy, sleeping Mexican, right? And that has haunted us for so many years. And so I thought to myself, okay, well, when I start my monologue, I'm going to be sleeping in class. I'm going to be in the front of class and I'm going to be sleeping in class. And that's what I did. I was, when I was asked to go up, I started it and I did a little bit of acting and then I delivered my piece. And then from that point on, my professor, my mentor, she just continued to inspire me and said, Donato, you have a gift with this. You're able to catch a certain particular type of moment. And so you got to go through this, So I started to write. I started to write quite a bit. I started to do poetry. I started to, even go to cafe shops and go to universities. And then really the catalyst to get the word out there was the fact that I produced a small little book of collection of poetry with 3 of my homies, my homeboys. Guillermo Najar, rest in peace, who passed away about 6 months ago through COVID. Eduardo Valencia and Alejandro Villalpando. And so we were basically like 4 young, ambitious Inland Empire poets. And we felt that our poetry was going to change lives, because you're so idealistic at the time, right? When you're young. But then you realize that a lot of people don't read poetry, and it kind of shatters your egos a little bit. However, this was a labor of love. And we produced it and we put it together and we started visiting universities and bookstores and cafe shops. And so we got our word out there. And so that just, it was the seed for me. That was the seed for me right there, and I haven't stopped since,
Yeah, thank you, Donato. And so, thank you for sharing all that. And so when you decided to kind of do this as a career, did you receive support from your family and friends?
Well, I mean, it's hard to make a career out of it, first of all, unless you're like Rupi Kaur or R.H. Sen or, some of these great poets that have been, become popular because of Instagram, right? So I've just done it out of a labor of love, right? And so what happened is that, I changed my major from architecture to humanities. And so the reason why I met you is because I became a professor. And so throughout the past, years of writing, I've had great support from my family, from my friends. I did a reading last weekend and I had 2 of my friends from Cal Poly Pomona. And this is like 20 years ago, 25 years ago that I maintained like really good friends with these guys and they were on there and they showed love. And so they continue to give me praise and, my family and then my colleagues. And so, I mean, more than anything, just gives me a sense of like accomplishments and a sense of like, it's doing the writing of the poem is the reward in of itself, and then being able to share it, of course, that's really like the big kind of like, reward for me, being able to share with people,
Yeah. Thank you, Donato. And so with that, we're gonna kind of get into your school education a little bit. So talk about what schools you attended.
Well, so I went to 1 year at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo to study architecture. I didn't do so well. Then I rerouted my plans, went to Fullerton College, and I did the community college kind of experience. And then I went to Cal Poly Pomona thinking that I was going to be an architect. And after completing 3 of the 5 years of architecture, I told my parents that I changed my major. And I remember that one conversation my dad said, he goes, ay, ¿cómo eres tan pendejo? Gastaste tanto tiempo de estudio para decir que no vas a ser un arquitecto. In other words, like it took me so long to realize that I didn't want to be an architect. And so, I just think that all of us are in the search. When we go to college, we're not particularly sure what we want to do. I knew I wanted college. I wanted to get a bachelor's degree. and I thought I wanted to be an architect. And my architecture friends, like bless you guys that you finished it and you got your license. I'm proud of you guys. And there's a little bit of residual jealousy that I have for you, you know. But I applaud your efforts. But it just wasn't for me, Brenda. It just wasn't for me. And so I ended up doing the bachelor's in humanities with a minor in Chicano studies. And then I went to Cal State Fullerton for the master's in comparative literature. So I've been to like 3-4 schools, you know.
It's still good though. I mean, you still got it done. And with that, I wanted to, because you already mentioned that you went from architecture to English, but talk a little bit about your experience and opportunities you had while you were in school. Because I know you talk about being in Mecca.
Meta, yeah. Yeah, so I was in Meta at Cal Poly Pomona, and that really, and for those guys that are listening, that really gave me kind of like the, you know, the need to be activists and the need to do art and the need to be activists because of our art. And so I just, you know, it was my kind of like a breeding ground to go out there, and we were out there protesting certain things, and we were out there. We actually even went to Chino prison and talked to the inmates, and we were intimidated, and we had to get clearance. And we talked to, you know, one week we would be talking to like these hardcore criminals in prison, not knowing what the hell we were going to tell them. But then the next week we'd be talking to like elementary school children and talking to them about education and things like that. And the next weekend we would be, you know, protesting, you know, anti-affirmative action, or you know, 187, you know, right? The Penal Code 187. And so it was kind of like the breeding ground for my activism. And I always felt that, you know, like art is really important, whether you're painting or you're doing canvas or watercoloring or photography. You have to, you know, send a message, you know, give like a message, because this is your platform, you know, right? And so it kind of proved like an inspiration for me being involved in MECHA and also Mexican American Student Association at Cal Poly Pomona as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Donato. That I think it's all super important to share that with everyone. I wanted to also ask you, how was your experience transferring to Cal State Fullerton as a grad student, and what was the classroom experience you had? How did you feel?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that question. My graduate experience was very intimidating. I was in a classroom of like 15 to 18 students, and about 16 or 17 of them were white. And I was probably one of 2 Latinos in there, and probably one of like 3 or 4 people of color. And I was very intimidated because of that. I felt like I was outnumbered. I felt intimidated. And then, mind you, that a lot of these students that were in those graduate programs were well read. They would quote biblical verse in class. They would quote Shakespeare in front of class. They talked about how many books they read just over the weekend. And I was this young Chicano kid that loved reading and loved to share reading. And I would read maybe 1 book every 4 weeks. That was my pace, right? Yeah. And these guys were reading like books over the weekend. And so they came into class and they just were incredibly well-spoken and well-versed. And I said, I don't think I'm in the right, I don't think I'm in the right program. I doubted myself, but I said, you know what? I gotta hang in there. I gotta do what I can. I gotta participate when I can. I have to raise my hand when I want to share something as minor or as ridiculous as it may sound to the professor and to the rest of my peers. And I'm just gonna work hard, because that's kind of what I've been taught to do from my parents, right, and from my family. Just do the best that you can and just work hard. And you don't have to compare yourself to others. Just handle your shit, you know, like handle your business, because at the end of the day, these guys are going to move on and they're going to make their lives, and you're probably not going to encounter them. You're probably not going to see them. And what you have to do is take care of yourself. And so, you know, that was kind of my philosophy. Yeah. So it was a very humbling experience, for reals.
Yeah, no, and then you also talked, I don't want you to forget to mention this, but you also say you got a plaque when you were, well, yeah.
Yeah, you know, at the end of the year, they give out these like awards to like English students and graduate students, and I was really surprised when I received the plaque, right? I was really surprised at the end of the year, like banquet awards, right? And like the next week, I went up to my advisor, right? And I said, okay, so Dr. Gass, I mean, you have to really tell me, like, why did you give this to me? Because it felt like a little league trophy. You know how they give like everybody, you know, everybody that participates, they give little league trophies, right? Everybody, right? Everybody gets trophy. Well, when I was growing up, I played a lot of baseball. They gave a trophy to the first place winner and the second place winner. And every other kid was like, okay, tough luck, you know, get them next year, right? Nowadays, they give everybody participation trophies. So I went to Dr. Gass, I think it was her, and I said, so is this like a participation trophy? Is this like a trophy that you guys like felt sorry for me? And she really kind of made me feel good. And she said, you know, Donato, the committee who gives out these awards, they just talked about you and how hard you work and perhaps notice the struggle that you come from. And there's a subtle, quiet intelligence behind you. You don't always share it, but we see it, we feel it, and your classmates do too. So she said, there's a subtle, quiet intelligence. I had to kind of like think about that and said, what the hell does that mean? So let me go to my dictionary, right? But no, I knew what that meant, and I was really happy about that. But I'm glad it wasn't kind of like oh, we feel sorry for you. You're our freaking token Chicano student in the graduate program at Cal State Fullerton. So I hope it was well worth it, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Donato. And so what do you feel that school prepared you for?
Working hard, not giving up, rolling with the punches, meeting people of diverse backgrounds, you know, teaching to populations of diverse backgrounds, being able to sit in the boardrooms and being able to sit in a committee of like 50 people when we interview somebody, right? And be able to present your ideas and speak from that perspective, but also be able to, you know, like the next day have a foot in the barrio and have a foot in my like upbringing and just kind of like keep it real. And you know, I mean, I think when you're Chicano or when you're bicultural or bilingual, you have the ability to go back and forth between these two worlds, right? And like we're able to do it kind of like fluidly and things like that. And so being in school has really taught me about that, you know, has really taught me about being able to navigate with this, you know, academic world, but also stay connected to this, you know, my barrio upbringing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for that, Donato. And so what do you feel that school did not prepare you for?
Uh, I don't know. Maybe I could come back to that question.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
know you struggled the the
Yeah.
last that, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that question is there, you know?
Yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah, if you think of an answer, we can go back to it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and so this question I actually came up with for you. So as a professor, when do you feel the most helpful to your students?
That's a good question. Unfortunately, we're in the middle of this pandemic, and hopefully, we'll go back in the fall. But I think that I'm the most helpful to students when students come up and talk to me one on one individually about their particular essays, about the particular narrative or whatever it is they're working on, because I can actually sit down and talk to them about ideas. When I talk to them about ideas, and when I try to help a student put their ideas, what they have in their head, onto paper, I see the look in their face, like, I get it. When they see that, you know, because the toughest thing to do is go from how it makes sense in my head, and I'm sure you struggle with this too, Brenda, being a student in my classes, how you went from the ideas that you had in my head to how I'm going to put that and communicate that on paper. But it clicks for them. But it only clicks for them, or sometimes it clicks for them with hopefully my help when they come see me individually, right? And we you know, I write on essays, and then like a lot of students, they come back to me like after they graduate, said, "Damn, Donato, you bled all over my you love that blue ink. You bled all over my essay, man." You know, it's like, yeah. And I said, well, you know, like you know, do you want to learn? Do you want criticism, or do you want me to say what everybody else is going to tell you, like, oh my God, that's so good, like that's so well written, like you did good, mijo, you did good, mija, you know, right? So you know, so that makes me feel good, and I think that's when I'm the most helpful, when I'm able to get the ideas from a student, right, from their head onto paper, from their thoughts onto paper.
Yeah, no, thank you for that, Donato. I think that's something really important that you have as a professor. And so what is something that you could feel that you could offer more in a classroom setting?
In a classroom setting, definitely. I wish that we had more time for creative writing. I wish we had more time in the classroom for journaling. I wish we had more time in the classroom for students to be able to share these journals in class. But I
Mm-hmm.
understand that sometimes when students write in journals, they write about personal stuff and they write about secrets and they write about these things that are very touching to them. And so I think that what it's hard for a lot of them to become comfortable to share that in a class of 25 students.
Yeah.
So I got to find a way to do that. But however, I wish that the classroom environment allowed for more time for that, because a lot of times we got to work on, okay, the structure of the essay, the research paper, thesis statement, body paragraphs, which is all incredibly important. But like I said, I wish our classes had a little bit more time for that creative stuff to come out, you know?
Yeah.
So I weave it in there. I get it out of them as much as I can on occasion.
Yeah, yeah, you really do. I remember, I think it would be like what, once a month, and you would like have a sit in a circle and we would talk about it.
There you
I
go.
re
Remember that? Yeah.
yeah, I
Uh,
remember that.
I also remember just people reading some of their journal entries and just like crying too, and just like shedding their tears, and it inspired other students to say, okay, like Brenda read this, so now I'm gonna read the one that I wasn't gonna read, because it's like we began to encourage each other.
Yeah. No, yeah, definitely. And so, with all this awesome information that you gave us, Donato, thank you again. I want you to now share your art with us, and I know that this is what everybody came here to listen to, is your wonderful poetry. And before we get started, I wanted to ask how do you weave in stories into your poetry without making it into a story?
Yeah, that's a really good question. What I try to do, I think I mentioned this, Brenda, is that I I I try to remember certain details, right? And I think my effort is, okay, like I'm gonna write a poem about this, but I
Mm-hmm.
want to make sure I bring in this particular little detail in without telling the whole entire story about that.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I'm gonna read this one poem and I'll tell you kind of like two little stories that are in this poem. I remember one of my white friends, and if you're growing up in the hood, there were always white friends around. And like, I had two white friends that were very dear to me. His name is Vance, rest in peace, right? And then I also Tim Patricia and Roy Wells. They came on the hood, man. They became like almost like these adopted Chicano characters. But I remember one of my friends came over to the house, and my dad had this rule, right? And it says, okay, you have two sisters, okay? Don't let them in the house. If you want to hang out with them, you guys can hang out outside. You can sit in the front porch, and we had like a big front porch, right? If they need to go pee, then have them go pee in the backyard by the chickens, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and then obviously, if they need to use the restroom for other business, then you bring them in and you wait for them, and then you go back out. And you got two younger sisters, right? So I said, cool, right? So one time my mom had made tamales that day during the week. It was weird, right? And then so she asked me and my friend if we wanted tamales. I was like, hell yeah, who doesn't want tamales, right? So I went to have some tamales, and I was enjoying my tamal, right? I was enjoying my tamal. And then I looked over to my friend, my white friend, to see if he was enjoying his tamal. And he was kind of like chewing it this way, Brent, like he couldn't get around it. And I noticed that he had failed to remove the corn husk from the tamal. And it taught me it taught me a little tiny lesson that, first of all, I cannot assume that everybody is like privy of our Chicano culture, right?
Yeah.
I can't assume that everybody is like he knows how to eat a tamal. But that was the very first time that he ate tamales, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I had to basically tell him, like, you got to remove, don't be a pendejo, you got to fucking remove the corn husk from there,
Yeah.
right? And then another tiny story that I have within here is when I graduated from high school, I was so excited. And, like you get gather with families and stuff like that. And like my sister was crying, like, my sister Lupe was crying. So if you're watching, I don't know if you remember this, But my sister was crying, and she was crying. She was hugging me, and I said, "What the hell are you crying for? I'm the one that graduated." She goes, "I'm so happy for you," right? I guess maybe because it hit her close, because she was going to be the next one to graduate, and she saw all the beauty and the festivities and the celebration of just a high school graduate, right? I wasn't the first one because I had two brothers before me, but so what I do is I remember all these like little details, Brenda, and then somehow I put them in the poem. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Beautiful. Yeah. And I think we're doing really good on time, Donato. So I think
okay,
um
cool.
I think we can do, let's try to do 4 poems, and
Right
then
on.
time we have, yeah, because
Yeah.
I know there's other things that you want to talk about with the poetry, so go for it.
Well, the other two things that I wanted to talk about the poetry, and this will exist in kind of like one of my other second poems, but two stories. One is that I remember the when I was able to finally drive, like at 16 years old, my mother would ask one of her sons, or whoever could drive, like, "Mijo, can you take me to the grocery store?" Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember my dad would give my mom like $100, like basically like that's going to be enough for like 7 people, right? For the whole week.
Yeah.
And I remember that, like, my whole mission to go to the grocery store with my mom, which was to get shit that I wanted to get for me and my brothers and sisters, right? And I remember that my mom would always say, "No, Donato, no, nomás te dio, nomás me dio tu papá $100, right?"
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember when my mother would turn her back, because I had gone to one of my friend's house, and one time for lunch I had Frosted Flakes, and
Mm-hmm.
God damn it, the first time you have Frosted Flakes, they're so damn delicious, right?
Yeah.
And I said, "Damn, these are so delicious." We used to buy generic corn flakes, or else corn flakes, but then you have to add sugar to them, and they were never the same. So
Mm-hmm.
when my mom turned around or whatever, I would take out the box of corn flakes and stuff Frosted Flakes underneath the bread. Or sometimes what I would do is I would put ding dongs in there, so that when my mother would go to the register, she couldn't take them back. She was already right there on the conveyor belt. But she would put them at the end, and she said, only if there's any leftover, right? Yeah. And then I was such a travieso. I was just a sneaky little kid. Now this one right here is, I'm a little kind of embarrassed to say, because I don't know if too many people know about this. And please forgive me, Father, because I have the picture of Sacred Jesus in front of me, and we're in the middle of Lent. But one of the things that my father used to wake us up on Sunday mornings, just to demand us to go to church, right? He'd be like, "Cabrones, levántese, vamos a misa," and this at 7 o'clock in the morning, so we could be ready for like 8 o'clock church. And I really hated getting up. But once I got to church, I enjoyed it. And I enjoyed it for two kind of confessional reasons that I'm a little embarrassed about. That, when young men and girls go to church, they put on their Sunday best. And I would look at girls, and I was really excited about looking at girls. And I was like, I was a teenage kid, like 12, 13 years old. And then I was even like looking at older women, like, just, oh man, she's so pretty. Because, sometimes like I would look at these women as like, man, that's like a saintly Wonder Woman right there. Like she looks like Wonder Woman, but she looks so saintly. And she was so good looking or pretty, right? And then the other thing, and this is the one that I have to ask for forgiveness, is because, I don't know if people like the baskets that go around, the colección and stuff like that, the offering. Sometimes I noticed these men would put like $20 in, and then they would get like $10 back, right? Well, after a while, change, like they, put $5 in, right? Put $10 in, get my change back or whatever, right? Totally normal.
Yeah.
So I got to thinking, wow, that's freaking clever. So here's what I'm gonna do. But I had to be careful that my mom and dad were not watching. So I would put in $1 into the basket, and then I would take $3 back. So I would pretend that I put $5 in there, and then get $3 back. And so what that did for me, Brenda, what that did for me is that I was then able to have, the next day when my mother would pack lunch, like a burrito and an orange, I could at least buy a bag of Doritos on Monday, buy a Hostess pie on Tuesday, and ding dongs on Wednesday. And I was good. I was good for 3 days, And then I go to church the next Sunday and repeat the cycle again. And so, So that was my travieso self back in the days. Anyways, you'll hear about some of these shenanigans in my readings today, okay? At least 1 or 2 poems, okay? So This is the first one. It's called Where I'm From. Where I'm from, the front porch is an extension of the living room, where my wife friend first learned of tamales. You must unwrap the corn husk before biting into it, into the creamy chile-filled masa. I'd sit for hours spinning sunflower seeds and contemplating the beautiful girl from my class I was too afraid to talk to. Where I'm from, I peel oranges while doing my algebra homework while I waited for my mother's mole. On any given day, music blasted from the inside. The thumping loud sounds would shake and rattle screen doors that were held together by one screw on its side. The music was tropical and funky. The hip-hop beats were loud and bombastic. Classic times, a whole afternoon since I became entranced to the glorious spells of music. It was one of my first loves. Where I'm from, the sirens kept us up all night, from police cars, ambulances, and fire trucks. Even helicopters circled around the night sky, beaming and shining its high beams across the asphalt streets. Where I'm from, German shepherds and Rottweilers and cockfighting roosters competed for attention with the borrachos and tecatos who stumbled home drunk or high in the early morning hours. Shortly thereafter, a young mother would plead, "No, viejo, no, it wasn't me. It's not true. Stop screaming. You're gonna wake up the kids. Please, Dios, por favor, ayúdame." Where I'm from, the smells of family creeps out of every opening, pour, crack, cold, and spills into the air like confetti. It is a warm pot of frijoles, handmade corn tortillas, hot off the comal, toasted green chiles peeled and crushed into a smoky molcajete. Where I'm from, the blaring sounds of horns, music, children, and ice cream trucks keep everyone awake and alert. The cars litter the driveways, the yards, and large patches of dirt. All are works in progress. Empty beer cans are scattered all over the front yard like permanent decorations. Marijuana smoke penetrates nostrils. Young children play hopscotch in the middle of the street as they dodge lowriders cruising slow and low to the sounds of oldies. Where I'm from, concrete walls are never bare. Inscriptions are scrawled, barely legible. Graffiti claims a clica or a barrio. Names of lovers are etched and painted over by young novice murals. Hearts are glorified, suns and moons are painted, and rainbows provide colors to the dry streets. These walls leave memories of who was here. Where I'm from, the fresh grasses sprouts. Fruit trees grow wildly like a jungle in the backyard. Wild flowers push through cracks in the concrete. Shaky hands of grandmothers tend to their immaculate rose bush gardens. Young girls jump rope in the middle of the streets. Teenage boys toss baseballs and make plans to become boxers or ballers. Where I'm from, through the crumbled cinder blocks between cracked cement and potholes on asphalt streets, they tell a future of innocent shorties that read books and become lawyers and teachers. Where I'm from, it is still possible to make dreams come true. It is still possible to make a mother smile and to make your sister cry tears of joy. So yeah, that's our first one, and so you can kind of hear just a couple of references to some of the details that I was talking about. This next one here is really growing up with a pretty tough kind of father. My father has changed over the years, and I think that the time I could probably guess that the time that he became more loving was when he had grandkids. But he was very tough on all 7 of us. And so this one is entitled "We Wanted More." And if any of my brothers and sisters are listening, you can probably relate and you remember some of this stuff, okay? So it's called "We Wanted More." We wanted more. We always wanted more. All 7 of us. We were hungry. We wanted more than wrapped burritos and oranges for lunch. We wanted more than frijoles and tortillas. We wanted more than caldo. We wanted to eat at restaurants. We wanted McDonald's. We wanted Kentucky Fried Chicken. We wanted more treats. We wanted ice cream. I would sneak Doritos bags underneath the sandwich bread, ding dongs underneath the bananas. I would replace cornflakes with Frosted Flakes. I stole Snicker bars and bags of M&Ms. We wanted longer showers, more time with warm water, more time in the bathroom. We wanted our own room, our own bed, our own blanket, but we shared everything: clothes, jackets, shoes, combs, sandals, one television. We wanted to get away. We wanted to move. We wanted a bigger home with a large backyard and a tiny playground. We wanted to smell fresh flowers, not chicken smells or burnt rubber smells or littered car part smells or dog smells. We wanted fresh lemonade in the refrigerator. We wanted a nice haircut at a barbershop, not one from Pops. He fucked up our hair every time. We wanted Nike shoes or Adidas or Vans. We got Keds or other knockoff generic brands bought at Kmart or the swap meets. We wanted a new bike for all of us. I didn't mind if we had shared this with handbrakes or multiple gears because our cousin had a new one. He didn't share with anyone. We wanted a new car during high school because he had one too. We wanted vacations and trips to the beach. We wanted to go camping. We wanted to sleep underneath the stars. We wanted to go to the mountains. We wanted to go fishing because other boys in our classes did that. We wanted Santa Claus to visit our home. We wanted a Christmas tree full of presents. We wanted birthday parties. We wanted birthday parties with candles. We wanted to spend the night at friends' homes. We wanted more. We always wanted more. He spanked our tiny asses, sometimes with his bare hands, often with his leather belt. Red raw marks. The pain was like gas poured on fire. The pain spread across our backs and up our necks. The back of our thighs bubbled with red welts. He whipped us across our round butts for playing outside, for not pulling weeds, for talking during dinner, for coming home after dark, for bickering with each other over an Atari game. We wanted our mother when he screamed and knocked us down with a stinging slap to our heads. We wanted her to comfort us. We wanted good times with him. We wanted laughter. We wanted him to throw the ball with us. We wanted swings in the backyard. We wanted to crawl up his legs and sit on his lap. We wanted to crave hugs from him. The affection never came. We wanted more. We always wanted more. All 7 of us. So that's kind of like a dark poem about, growing up with a tough father and the fact that me and my siblings really learned how to share and how to compromise. And like, if there's any lesson to be learned, it's really about that, about sharing and compromising and just doing the best with what we had,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm going to change the mood a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna read this poem that I haven't read in such a long time, but I love it because it really is about the music of, I love music, right? I love music a lot, and music has informed me quite a bit. And so this poem is kind of about the sort of indigenous music of the people from Latin America.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called Mestizo Picadillo. Okay. And it goes like this. Mestizo beats on underground airwaves, sampling and scratching, mixing and mingling, blending and bending, borrowing and taking. Lyrical passwords are loosening rusted chains of slavery and waking decaying skeleton skulls and bones, running through clay earth and creeping through time, ticking and talking to packs of wolves and ancient sacred spirits, humming, crumbling, rumbling and tumbling, tribal Tenochtitlan temples. The live hearts are oozing and dripping with warm sacrificial blood, just spreading and descending past the descendants of Machu Picchu with ceremonial calypso and conga drums thumping it, Inca flutes and Aztec conch shells, solo strumming acoustic guitars and bass-infested Caribbean beats, electric boogaloo and birthing births and deaths and rebirths to Pan-Africans, to mulattoes, to Sambos and Indians, mestizo school children and Creole teachers, scratching and scrawling on chalkboards, rewriting and recreating history. Not his story, but it's our story. And we're checking it. Checking it. Cacophonous, hieroglyphic, rhythmic, bebops and hip hops, rattling rattles, maracas and timbales, carving and etching chair of flesh, slicing and slipping infant eardrums, strange voodoo sounds and ho-hos and mojos, shrieking curses and chanting, smoking peace pipes and slowly burning incense, full of surreal dreams and late night screams, scandalous vibrations and pelvic intonations. You're whispering those whispered sweet incantations to your lover in between the moist blankets of midnight snake-wrapped lovers, just for the funk of it, ferociously grooving and freaking, shaking and baking, jamming and jiving, secretly and discreetly. We're scribbling our heartbeats on dark corners of our virgin sacred land that Columbus has not yet tainted. Yes, that one. I love that one.
It's so good. Thank you, Donato. I haven't heard that one.
That's that's an oldie but goodie, probably like 10 years old, maybe 15, Let's see. I'm gonna read another one that has kind of like the same kind of rhythm,
Yeah.
And it's really about my love for hip hop music, and I did it kind of like in the spirit of Dr. Seuss. And I know that like recently, like some of the Dr. Seuss books have been kind of taken out of the classroom or maybe banned because it's sort of racial insensitivity of some of his characters and things like that. But I'm telling you, if you're a kid and you went to grade school, which is all of us, I know you know what Dr. Seuss is like. So I try to capture this with these kind of sort of rhyming element, but it's about hip hop. Okay, so it's called In Case You Don't Know, In Case You Don't Feel Hip Hop. All right. I want mad crazy hops, like brothers who cross you over on basketball black tops. Ghetto blasters nearby bumping loud hip hop that rattle and shake the windows on your block. It's never too early to make your body pop lock. Sizzle and flame on your tongue like pop rocks. Words that rhyme spin and sprain a beatbox. Perfect circles like Cheerios in a cereal box. Kindergarten children to collect in the box tops. A special surprise inside the Cracker Jack box. Young brothers bopping heads. Hair like moppy dreadlocks. Bob Marley resurrect on corner blocks. Samples and old school jams on the jukebox. In a pool hall with sexy females that make your body rock. Walk, swagger, and rhythm like crazy wild socks. Yo, I'm talking about hip hop. At times it's about the fashion, but it's always deeper like passion. Listen to hip hop and drop some sad tears. Shots of hard liquors or some cold beer for the homies from the early school years. Some rappers give us a hit and quickly disappear, but real artists have been around for more than 20 years. Some hip hop artists are already dead, but you can't get their music out of your head. You recite their lyrics while lying in bed. Love songs are nice, but yo, I want hip hop instead. Delicious like mother's good food, crazy like breezy afternoons, nice and chill like the deep cherry moon. You're grooving and humming that tune like holding hands and feeling so good, happy like skipping rope in a chipper good mood. The music sounds so good, it picks you right up. It's like now you're in your head and saying, what's up? Hip hop makes you scream, inspires you to dream. It can bring you hope when you're feeling alone. Music hits you hard, thrusts you in the heart, deep feelings like art, soar and fly far like a falling bright star, like a comic book superstar. It makes you feel love for the very first time. Nervous sweet lines, she's a poem that rhymes. You got to believe just one time to listen. I'm sure you will see it helps me to feel free. Shines bright for me like high beams in front of me that help me to see clearly. You see, hip hop lets me be. And yo, at the end of the day, I just want to be.
That was so good.
So there's that one there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got more.
Yeah. I think we have time for one more, just so we have enough time for questions, if that's okay, Donato.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Let's see.
I was gonna say, I don't know if you have this one that I heard you do, I think a while ago in like a huge it was for a poetry month, and I think Marilyn was there. It was something about the aguacates or something.
Oh, yeah. I think I know which one you. Okay, I'll
I
see if I. Okay, I'll see if I can. I'll see if I can find that one. You know, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
While you're finding the poems, I wanted to ask, so how long did it take for these poems to be completed?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, it starts with a thought, Brenda. It starts with a thought. It starts with an idea. I think it starts with just something in your head. And
Yeah.
you know, I have all kinds of journals. I have like 4 or 5 different journals just where
Mhm.
I have thoughts, and then I have pieces of paper. Right. I have pieces of paper where I just gather some ideas. And sometimes we have this like little cool app on our phones, right? Which is notes. So sometimes when I'm driving and you know, again, pre-pandemic, I'd be driving on the 91 freeway from Santana all the way to Riverside, and I get a certain thought. So what I do is I turn off the music, I open up the notes, and then I speak into it, right? And it doesn't transcribe everything, but at least the thought is there. Because if I wouldn't have talked into it at that point, by the time I get home, which will be an hour away, the thoughts would have disappeared.
Yeah.
Because moments of inspiration, Brenda, and you do photography, so you know this, and you do art, you gotta take advantage of it. You know, it's kind of like if someone says, "Hey, Donato, do you feel like teaching a class, right? That starts next week?" You can't really think about it. You got to say, "Damn, I got to take that opportunity." Donato, do you want to do this? You know, right? Do you want to go speak to this group? You can't say no. You almost got to say yes. So with me, with poetry, it starts with the idea. I have it on my phone. I'll transfer from my phone to the computer, and then I'll spend 2-3 hours on just that one poem, and then I'll leave it alone, Brenda. I'll leave it alone for like a week. Like I have a folder on my computer that says finished poetry.
Mm-hmm.
I also have one that says like old poetry. We're talking like 20 years ago, 25. And then I have one that says works in progress. I
Yeah.
have about 20 works in progress, right? I have about 20 works in progress. That means that like maybe one day I'll look at it and add like 3 lines, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then and then I won't touch it for like another week, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the way the process works for me, right? I'm glad you're asking that, because if any of my students are there, any of my students are there, they can kind of identify with this idea of the writing process, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah, and while you're still, did you find the poem, Donato?
You know what?
Or,
I found one
okay,
that's
yeah, go for
that,
it.
yeah, I found one here that I think I see my primos are here. Hey, primos, and I see some of my what's up, Orlando? Man, I'm looking at you guys, So yeah, thank you guys for joining. This one's called Hood Stories, okay? And this is really about the love of our language, right? And this is recent. This is like a month, like 3 weeks old, right? So it's
Oh,
fresh.
cool,
Yeah.
cool.
But it's about the love of language and how it's so connected to our identity. By the way, do we have any questions there, Brenda? Have you seen any questions? If not,
Um,
if not, I'm just gonna read, man. I'm just read till 3 o'clock.
no questions yet. I
Okay.
have a few more to ask before we run out of time.
Okay.
But yeah, you can say one more and then I'll ask you some questions, and then if we don't get any questions, you can keep moving.
Okay.
But
What's
go
up,
for
Andrew Nava? Love you, Andrew. All right, here we go. Hood Stories. Nahua palabras are beautifying the antepasados and giving tribute to our ancestral roots. Like papalotes and tecolotes, and aguacate becomes chicano, becomes guacamole. Because we are keeping the language alive with greetings of our beautiful gente. And mexicateado y hermano, y buenos días, compadre. Adelante, amigo. And greeting a recognizable young homie like, hey, what's up, fool? Did you hear about the Jaina and the car crash last night? She was pushing her stroller. Our language transcends and evolves and ruptures time periods and histories. When we speak, we do it in our twisted tango trabalengua. Our stories are told in bold and brazen graffiti scrawled letters of who was here and who passed away. Too many young Chicanos with RIP slogans. Pinche desmadre that he died too soon. Y su abuela couldn't believe that his nieto died before her. Her strength is wrapped around her like a warm rebozo on a cold morning. But now she wears a black veil of sadness. This mujer india has birthmarks and scars on her back that tell stories of how she crossed the desierto wearing solamente sus huaraches. She survived rape from the coyote, abuse from her husband, and multiple miscarriages. And now she has to pay her respect to her 19-year-old nieto, this grandmother of indigenous features and a wrinkled face of knowledge, her hands like fragile dry leaves. But today, they still smell of this morning's masa as she fingers her rosary while praying to the Virgen. Never learned to read, but can tell you about the movement of the stars and the remedies and about the beautiful hummingbirds that would visit her in the spring. She could tell you about survival and resiliency and sadness and love. The graphic and raw stories are immortalized in the vibrant colors of the murals by young men and women self-taught. Porque para qué voy al museo cuando tengo el arte en mi corazón? ¿Para qué chingados voy to the galleries when my inspirations are in the middle of the street? I can hear the sounds of the paleteros and car horns. The sound of music blasts from all directions. I can smell the street tacos and vending trucks. Y chales con la pinche jura. Trucha, homie. Watch my back while I finish the outline of this mural. Chiflame cuando ves la pinche chota. Because all I want to do tonight is drink a 40 and pour some for the dead homies. I want to smack the shit out of the Donald Trump pinche piñata and splatter its insides all over the place because I do not recognize your wall. Because no border can stop the flow of water or blood or humanity. You build it, we will still come. Because there is no border. Mi gente vive en los files y en los campos y en the ghettos and the mobile home parks and the slums and the apartment complexes and the barrios. We live in downtown projects underneath city lights. You can still see us. This is occupied America. I don't have to leave or go anywhere because this is home. This is my home. And it has been this way for a long time. We are the victims of a violent history of bloodshed and barbed wire, gouging the skin, ripping flesh while chasing the American dream. Our stories are also of future dreams of seeing our loved ones once again with the warm, long embrace of love, because no words need to be spoken in this act, because our stories are of survival, and our stories are of resiliency, and our stories are of sadness, and our stories are of love.
Thank you,
There we
Donato.
go.
That was so good. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda.
Yeah.
So,
No, yeah, let me just ask like a few a few more questions, and then if we don't have any questions from the audience, you can keep sharing. So what are some of the beauties of being a Latinx and Chicano in America? And I know you shared a little bit of it in your poem, but you're more than welcome to say more.
Yeah, I just think that it's so amazing, and we're gifted with multilingualism, and we're gifted with just diverse foods and culture and languages and environments. And like I grew up in a barrio, and now I live in suburbia, right? And so like I have memories of both, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
still have memories of like what it was like to be like a 4 or 5 year old little chavalillo, right? Walking around the pueblo, holding hands with my little sister, right? I still have memories of that, right? And so it's just amazing that I've been blessed with living in very diverse populations, right? Where one day I could be hanging like enjoying a pizza, hamburger, right? French fries, wings, and ranch dressing. But then, you go visit your mom's, and you got like I said today, my mom made some pozole, and like
Mm-hmm.
next week she's gonna make mole, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
she'll make nopales with mole or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, we have the ability to have our feet in so many different places, and that's what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying. So that's a beauty, right? A lot of people talk about the struggle. Of course, we struggle. We struggle with, like as a raza, as gente, we struggle with lack of education, lack of financial assistance. We fill the
Yeah.
prisons along with blacks. We're incarcerated at higher rates than the higher rates than say like a white person that commits the same crime. We're targeted. We're members of, we're racial profiled all the time. We're like abused by authority, by police authority. Economic disparity, just like the cycle of poverty, that's very difficult to break out of the cycle of poverty. But we have this enormous amount of resiliency, like our gente, our raza. We have this enormous amount of strength and resiliency, and we just got to remember who our parents are and where they came from, and like the roots of their passage. Like the roots and their passage, and what they did to get here. And it doesn't even, and it goes beyond just our parents. It goes beyond grandparents. It just goes beyond, to like our native indigenous ways and our native indigenous people and who we are and where we come from. It's like, if you think to the history of who we are as Chicanos, Chicanas, like, we were forced to learn Spanish, by violent means. They raped our women, and they, dismantled our culture and our religious beliefs, right? So then at some point we left, Mexico, and then we came to the United States of America. And then when we got here, we had to learn now another language, right? Because we had Spanish, and now we have to learn another language. So it's like, man, it's like, at some point, it's like, yeah, that shit, that gets to us. There's a lot of struggles, So,
Yeah.
but it's beautiful to be, it's beautiful to be Latin. It's beautiful to be Chicano, right? It's beautiful to have like street tacos, like, half a mile away, right? And
Yeah.
McDonald's, shit, McDonald's around the corner too,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for sharing that, Donato. And I know when we were prepping, I really wanted you to talk more about it because there's a lot of viewers or a lot of friends that I have that don't really know much about our culture. And so just you sharing that is just like a small like insight into our struggles. And you put it so beautifully. So thank you for that. And my next
Thank you.
question is, how are you taking care of yourself physically and emotionally during this time?
Not as much physically as I would like to do. I miss my hikes. I miss going outdoors and doing my exercise and stuff like that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
telling you, like ever since we shut down, like I'm spending like 10, 11, 12 hours on the computer.
Mm-hmm.
My siblings come over, and I'll go join them in the living room, and I'll have my computer on my laptop, and they'll be like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm creating essays or discussion posts or sending emails and stuff like that." Just before I got online, 3 minutes, I received an email about a student asking me about doing some peer editing exercise, right? And so it's like, right? Like, in other words, like there's no time where like you shut down as a
Yeah.
teacher. So it's really hard to kind of like maintain like a, you know, yeah, I gotta get myself outdoors, and I gotta self-care and things like that. So that's one thing that I've neglected, the self-care. So, you know, but I'm on it though, you know.
Yeah. And so my last question is what is your advice that you would like to give to any artists, poets, and writers?
Just do it for yourself first and foremost, because it gives you gratification, it gives you pleasure, and it clarifies things for you, whatever it is that you're going through. If you're going through a bad time, a great time, you know, fill your canvases and write music about your joys and your sadness, you know, right? Whether you're playing guitar, you're a drummer, you know, you're a painter, you're a photographer. Try to capture those moments that, you know, like that are like, you know, that are art, you know, right? And you can do it from your phones and things like that. And so just work at your craft, work at your art. I don't know if he's here, but my good friend Mark Higgins has a sort of writing diet that he says that every morning he wakes up like at 6 o'clock in the morning, and you know, he writes as much as he can for a couple of hours, and then he looks back at it another time. He says most of it I just threw away, but there's one paragraph or line, or there's a character, or there's something that he wrote that he's going to keep, and he's working on writing these novels, or working on writing these short stories. And so I just think more than anything, just give yourself some time to do some writing, you know, force yourself, for whatever your art is. I know I'm talking about writing, but whatever your art is, you got to hone it, you got to practice it. You know, it's like trying to learn how to dribble a basketball with your left hand. You're not going to get better if you don't practice, right? You can't get better. You can't get better if you don't practice that free throw, right? You know, just like repeat it, you know, constant muscle memory, and you repeat that and you repeat that and you repeat that. And it's the same thing with sports, same thing with your craft, you know, whatever your craft is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, thank you. And I think that's all the questions that I have. I know that you wanted me to ask you a few more about details that you recall when you write, but I think you really answered it all when you were talking about your poetry. So that's all the
That's right.
questions. Yeah, for now. I really would prefer you sharing more of your poetry, but just before you do, I know there's someone called Jufro7 that says when does that rap career start? For you.
That's funny. Yeah. You know, I don't know if too many people are into like hiring middle-aged men like to do hip hop, but I love hip hop. I joke around this, and if my kids are watching, you know, I love hip hop more than my kids, you know, right? Yeah, so it's like speaks to me, you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me do one. Yeah, let me do one more. Kind of change the whole entire kind of, you know, just to show the diversity of some
Mm-hmm.
of my pieces, right? It's
Yeah.
more like a sort of heartbreak one, I guess, you know. And it's
Yeah.
called "I'm Sorry." Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, and you know, I really did not want this to be another sad poem. But sometimes I want to float among the clouds and see you from afar, spot you as a speckle, and then bring you into my focus as a tiny and precious little treasure. You see, they've told me that about love and the stars and the ocean and the waves and birds and flowers and the rainbows and sunshine. But nothing prepared me for the lingering pain, because when you're gone, I'm only smelling the burnt trees, and I see dry grass, and I taste the spoiled fruit, and I only hear broken glass on sidewalks. I feel the heat and the cold, the burns, the fresh cuts and bruises, and I wish that I could Photoshop my heart to cover up these scars that you left me with. I'm sorry. I'm really, really sorry that I'm vulnerable and weak. I'm telling you, I never meant to be this way. I'm sorry that I'm selfish to want you now at this moment. But this empty hole makes me suffer, and I want to utter words that I'm afraid to say. So I try to remember the sound of your voice, sweet, soft, soothing, delicate like lace, pleasant like a deep inhale and a slow meditative exhale. And I try to doodle, and I try to draw pictures of your hands, and I write similes about your eyes and metaphors of your smile, so these memories can be engraved in me. So wrap your arms around me, feel me like I feel you, love me like I love you, because I'm exhausted from the endless drives with the windows rolled down, playing this fucked up sad music. I'm overwhelmed from the sleepless nights in my lonely room while writing shitty poems about you. And maybe you are not the most beautiful, but your laughter is. And I'm the happiest person when I witness this moment. And I wish you knew that when I hear your name at random, I quiver like crunchy dry leaves. I wish you knew your name is music to slow dancing like gentle chimes on a breezy day. I wish you knew that your face is a beautiful memory every day. Your eyes ignite fireworks in me, ready to explode, and a rush of emotions make me nauseous like rainbow circling inside me. And I wish you knew that thoughts of you are always dripping at the tip of my pen. Thank you.
Thank you, Donato. That was really, really good.
Well,
That
it's a
was,
little different theme, it's a little different theme than
yeah,
some of the other ones, right? So,
yeah.
yeah.
No, that's good. I think we can do one more if you want. I just wanted to, in case you didn't see it, someone named Sylvester Nunez said, I don't have any questions. I just want to let my cousin Donato know that it was a privilege and a real treat to hear this treasure of poetry that represents so many of us Mexicans and our heritage. And Onyx316 says, I'm still waiting for your mixtape, Donato.
Oh my God. Yeah, Sylvester Primo. Say hi to the people up north, up there in Washington, and Onyx. Yes, we got to do that mixtape. And I still want to play. I still wanted to play basketball. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can
All
do
right.
one. And then I think after this one, Instagram might cut me off soon. So after this
Okay. All right.
one.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, so this was actually like an older one, and it's actually taken from a Taco Bell commercial. I don't know if you guys remember back in the days they had a
Alright.
commercial. I'm talking like a long time ago, and it said like "Make a run for the border, make a run for the border," right? So I
Yeah.
thought about that. I thought about that slogan. I thought, I'm going to create a poem about that because I think that sometimes like we think as immigrants that it's going to be so good in the United States of America, and it's incredibly difficult, and even more so now than it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when we crossed the border, when our parents crossed the border, right? So this is called "Make a Run for the Border," and it's got some, of course, some political expressions, but definitely relevant to what's happening. Okay.
Yeah.
Make a run for the border. Leave the firing squads and the bloody civil wars. Leave the communist dictatorships and perfect democracies behind. There will be no more kidnapped journalists and imprisoned poets. Leave the poverty, the dirty streets and the cobblestone roads and the stale bread. Leave the high unemployment rates. Leave the Aztec ruin and ruins. Make a run for the border. Hurry, here's your last chance. The gates are flooded open. The barbed wire has been cut loose. America is selling plenty of dreams, and the Statue of Liberty is embracing you with welcome hugs. What you waiting for? Disneyland has sale and clearance items. The electrical parade is a nightly event. Mickey Mouse is finished with Minnie, and he's looking for another hood rat, a new squeeze. McDonald's is open 24 hours with a friendly smile. Get your French fries while they're hot. Haven't you heard that money falls from trees? Collect them in bundles and sacks. Buy beautiful two-car garage homes with green manicured lawns and a friendly neighbor with white picket fences and poodle dogs, sprinklers, newspapers, bagels, and coffee every morning. They're selling Botox, liposuction, and Victoria's Secret on the internet now, and anybody can be beautiful. Make a run for the border. You will have no need to shop at swap meets, browse through junk at garage and yard sales, or collect aluminum cans in hefty black Glad bags, or wait in lines for handouts at the food co-ops at homeless shelters. No more fried manteca, chicharron, or burnt tire smells. Make a run for the border. Hurry. You will never have to pick oranges or grapes or fill them in wood crates for 25 cents a box. You won't ever have to wash dirty sheets from stranger sex. You won't ever have to scrub food and ketchup smears off of dishes. You will never have to cut or manicure another lawn other than your own. No more digging ditches or hustling for jobs at Home Depot with other compas. Make a run for the border before you get trapped in housing projects, into receiving welfare checks and government cheese. No more licking stamps on booklets. No more making powder tank and Kool-Aid. Hurry, make a run for the border. Run as fast as you can north on the 5 freeway across 6 lanes in front of screeching tires and sirens in the nightlight. Hold your children and your lifelong belongings as tightly as you can. Don't get pulled over or harassed by police or ICE officials. They will baton whip you into a lifeless mass of blood and guts. They won't ask questions or care about your name. Hurry, make a run for the border. Watch your back or you'll get 3 tons of concrete rubble shoved up your ass, or barbed wire tangled around your bleeding, emotional, sensitive heart, split between your legs, gouge and rip the flesh off your flesh, the blood of your blood, the body that is shed for America. rack your body year after year of the cycle of poverty, the cycle that you succumb to, the cycle that you sacrifice to. So hurry, make a run for the border. What you waiting for? And while you do it, keep your head up. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Donato. That was
All
so
right.
good. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing this, and thank you everybody for watching. Is there anything else you want to say, Donato, before we end it?
Just enjoy your day. For all the people that have, like some of my friends at Cal Poly Pomona, some of my family and friends, some of my students, just just thank you guys for logging on. I hope you enjoyed it. Follow me on Instagram, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a great day. And thank you, Brenda, as well, for following up and for making this happen. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you, Donato, for everything and for sharing your poetry. It was really good. And if anybody misses it or if you want to share it, I'll post it up right now, and then you can post it on your story if anybody missed it today.
All right, Brenda, thank you so much. Okay, and follow Brenda because she's gonna have amazing artists coming up, and she does this every week, and so she takes this responsibility very seriously, and she does great follow up. And so just keep following Brenda on IG. Okay. All
Yeah.
right,
Thank you,
everybody.
everybody. All right. Have a good day, Donato.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Bye.